Yeah.
So are you? So are you writing these down?
I got them down right now. I wrote it down.
Good. Well, then when you and I do a special edition of the Sports Exchange next week with my
We'll
travel
talk about
schedule, yeah, we'll do that. I'll hold you accountable or myself accountable. I'm not afraid to eat crow on the air, buddy. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Right.
I never tend to be perfect, but all right, as long as you got them down. But meanwhile, folks, just David Levin and I will be doing a live broadcast over at TIA Bank Stadium. Where the
Bank Field or something. They call it the bank.
Yeah, it's a bank field. I haven't
got any money from it, but it's a bank. So
that's all right.
It is what it is.
We call it future considerations.
There you go. Okay, great.
So, yeah, we'll get our agent to do the marketing for us. But meanwhile, folks, David and I will be doing a live broadcast ahead of the Jacksonville Jaguars LA Chargers game, so I'll be very curious to see how that plays out. So, good work tonight. You and I get to do it in person.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No
problem, David. Always
on the program too, buddy. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
You bet.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye.
So, before we talk a little baseball, your specialty shortly. What's your takes on what you've seen so far? It's been pretty much all football up to this point, except for the little hockey thing we had.
Well, you and I talked about it before the show, and I asked you, and I didn't, and this was without reading your notes, so I didn't know, and I put the two together as soon as I saw it, about what is the energy like with the crowd when Foles is on the field as compared to Minshew, and I guess when Minshew's on the field, the fans prop up like a kid at the McDonald's drive-thru. That's how excited they get. Okay. I mean, and you alluded to that with, I'll quote your words. You were like, "Oh yeah, like exactly." You're like the Kool-Aid guy, absolutely.
Well, the bottom line is they were calling for his name, and Doug Marrone knew that Nick really was on a short leash, and as a result, they brought him in. I think Doug gave Nick Foles every opportunity to try to get something going. Unfortunately, when you're a sitting duck in the pocket, and you're still recovering from that injury. And the thing that I said the other day, and I'm going to say it again, okay, Lewis, is this: Foles should have played the entire preseason to get in sync with his new weapons, and he didn't. And even though he connected with DJ Chark for a touchdown early on, and it looked good, you're tested by your body of work. You follow me? For the entire duration.
Yeah, and you said that during the, I believe when the show was in its inceptional stages, when you said that, and we started this show right when Minshew was really like Minshew Mania was in the midst of its height. Like it was at the highest it had been up until that point. And you said that during the preseason he played a lot. Now they may have lost all 4 of those preseason games, but again, who puts too much stock into that? But you know what? I think what would be fascinating, and I'm going to throw this by you. I'll throw a curveball at you. Can you imagine that, and David said this on Tuesday's show, there's no real such thing as a quarterback battle in training camp, because you normally have like 3 quarterbacks in there. Remember when Tebow was in on an invite with the Patriots? But could you imagine if Minshew wins the job going into 2020, and most of us agree that they're going to have a new head coach, and say they win 10 games next year and they're a playoff team. Can you imagine how crazy that city's going to be if that were to come to fruition?
Listen, I was there when they were close to getting the Super Bowl. I know exactly that Jacksonville is a town there that it's the only professional, or I should say major league sports team there. I know darn well that they're going to go ballistic. It's a small town, Lewis. It's just a one major league team sports town. But the one thing people better not underestimate the fact that Jacksonville is one of the biggest cities in the state of Florida. So even though population-wise and how big the city really is, it wouldn't surprise me. I've covered the team the last few years now. I have a much better pulse on it now, having been around that environment, than I have before.
And I think what's more important, I think the city of Jacksonville needs the Jaguars now when it comes to sports, because a recent report that came out the other day, I believe Jacksonville University lost its college football program.
Good point, yeah. It was a FCS school. They did, but I don't know how much they take stock in it, but yeah, they did drop the program. They did. But you know what, in retrospect, who knows how many people they were putting in the stands.
Which
I feel
could
bad
be a
for
reason.
the kids that are affected by it, but let's not kid yourself. If you want to go ahead and play college football, Gainesville and Tallahassee are a couple hours away, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, and your alma mater is not too far away either, USF.
Yeah, I think about 2-3 hours away.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, look, I think that's going to increase fan turnout to Jaguars games, and obviously I think it's going to help TV ratings. So, it's a double-edged sword there, the fact that school loses a football program, and I'm not...
I mean, yeah, you certainly bring it up. There's some relevance to the fact that it indeed did happen, but it was an FCS school, which is a level down below what Division I level is, advanced division. But yeah, they lost a football program, Jacksonville University.
Mm-hmm. I think as writers and
University of Jacksonville,
whatever it is, they don't have a football team, unfortunately.
Right? No, I'm with you.
And that's not a lack of respect for us not knowing who exactly. But again,
well, you know what their nickname is? It's the Bulls, I believe.
Well, there you go. Now,
I'm almost sure it is. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I think as writers and then as personalities on the air as we are, we do this twice a week, and you obviously have multiple shows, so you do it, upwards of 4 or 5 times a week. We follow stories, and that's evident in everything that we write, everything that we say. The preparation that goes into preparing for these shows. I think, look, Minshew's somebody that you're going to want to get around, and should he have the success that we're projecting him to have, because he's a glimmer of light in a city that has seen its fair share of struggles in recent years of quarterbacks. Obviously, Bortles won a playoff game, like you said. Chad Henne was a disaster over there.
He was a backup. How do you call it? Backup of disaster.
He was former Miami Dolphin, so...
Oh, whatever. That's not... A backup is never a disaster.
True, that is true, and I apologize for that.
You
But
don't have to apologize. It's a fact. Backup is a backup for a reason, just so you know.
I think a lot of us want to see Minshew fully realize what we're bestowing upon him as potential.
Yeah, but that town's his for the taking, Lewis. Mm-hmm. It's his for the taking. They're energized by it.
I bet you if you gave Shad Khan truth serum, that if he were to he would want to have Nick Foles on that roster, but maybe on a 2-year deal. I know we don't normally see free agent quarterbacks get 1 to 2 year deals. You're either getting big 3 or 4 year contracts, like Kirk Cousins got after he left Washington, or you're gonna get, you're just not gonna be signed at all. You'll be a practice squad guy, because I think they know moving forward who they want there. Nick Foles is kind of just caught in the game of Monopoly where he's stuck in jail. He can't move past go. He's untradeable.
Go ahead and say that.
Well, as far as
now, my gut feeling is he's there for at least 2 years. Because remember, he'll get the full benefit of reps during the offseason, the OTAs. So God forbid Gardner Minshew does get hurt, then he's there, and then they don't miss a beat under his watch. So I wouldn't quite go to the extremes you're going. I understand where you're going. I've seen it a lot, so don't feel too bad about it. I'm just telling you.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL, you're one play away from your career ending.
Absolutely.
In a serious injury.
Well,
I don't wish that on anybody. And if I want to validate my point a little bit, how about when Lawrence Taylor ended Joe Theismann's career?
Mm-hmm. Or when Bo Jackson got hurt in that playoff game.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking around quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Yeah. Well, I guess that the stuck in jail thing also refers to the fact that he's not mobile. Like, Minshew's explosive.
Well, he's a sitting duck. Not
Absolutely.
Stuck in jail. You got to make sure you understand your analogies, and you understand your analogies well. If you're a sitting duck, that means you're a sitting duck. When you're stuck in jail, it means you can't go anywhere. Mm-hmm. He could be playing, God, if anything were to happen, all of a sudden, there you go.
Yeah,
but I know where you're going with a lot of it, so you're okay.
Yeah, I just genuinely and for the sake of wanting to see that team have success, because I've interacted with obviously you and David more now this year than I have with that team ever in my history of watching football. I think they would have loved to have brought him in on like a 1 or 2 year deal, because I feel like he kind of hinders, given that he's owed $58 million guaranteed. He hinders a lot of what they can do moving forward with cap space, because unlike baseball, the NFL, you have a salary cap, and you don't always have a lot of money to sign whoever you want. They have obviously like guys like Chark, who he did establish a rapport with Foles, but I think that's going to continue with Minshew, and Fournette played his best football when Minshew was the quarterback. So I mean, they know what they have, and it's just a problem of trying to. They want to keep Foles there, but it's a problem of, can we relieve some of that salary?
Day, man. That's all
it is. I feel like the pendulum's going to shift every week. If he wins, loses, it's like, what are we going to talk about every week? Is he not the guy? Is he the guy? It's like, I personally think he is. I'm sure you do too, and as I do believe David does, because of his abilities that he possesses, being able to run, the fact that Foles doesn't necessarily possess that, which is why I think they know what they want moving forward. And unfortunately, the contract has kind of binded them to Nick Foles for another year.
But they knew what they were doing when they signed the guy. They let Blake Bortles go.
That is true.
And the guy won a Super Bowl, and they felt they were that close
playoff
to
game.
doing it. No, Nick Foles won a playoff.
No, Nick Foles. Yeah, I thought you were
That's
saying
what
Blake
I'm
Bortles.
talking about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's no question he won a Super Bowl. They thought they're, again, injuries are what they are. With that said, we welcome our Mark Littell to the program. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Glad to have you on the Sports Exchange, buddy.
Hey, pretty good, Scott. How's Lou? You there?
I'm right here.
He's right here.
I'm right here. Mark, the band's back together.
There we go.
Look at that. How you been? Happy Thanksgiving, Mr. Littell. What do we got to tell?
Well, Thanksgiving overs, and it's getting colder up here, and it's 25 degrees tonight, so I'm not going outside to smoke a cigar. No reason to.
That's funny. Well, before we get to the business at hand, I want to say that we love having you on the program, and we have a new challenge that awaits us after the first of the year. You and I talked about briefly. How about that? You're going to be the first guest on our new show, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. How do you feel about that?
Feel great about it. I like the way it's formatted, the way it's laid out, and the subject matter is always pretty good, really good actually.
Yeah, it's been something that as I evaluate people and where we plug them into the program, and you've been loyal to me for well over a year now, and I appreciate that very much. That with you and I and Lewis, I know that we can do a lot of beautiful things with this show, depending on how often you want to come on. Because, let's face reality, when you have people that you love working with, life's too short. Why not do it as often as you can, right, buddy?
It's fine by me.
Absolutely.
I mean, it doesn't bother me at all to do this stuff. I kind of enjoy it,
But, from a sentimental standpoint, it's good that you're going to be the first guest on the new show. 100.
I agree.
Always like to be first. 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. And just so you know, folks, that program will run on Thursday, January the 2nd, right after we get back from our New Year's break. And then I go to California the following week. So I want to make sure we got that in there. So with that said, okay, now that we're plugging our new show that Lewis is so excited about, right, Lewis?
Absolutely. I'm ready to get going.
Oh, you will. Don't worry.
All righty.
So, but meanwhile, we're going to get going and take care of the business at hand, okay? We're going to talk about the vote of some Hall of Famers. We talked about that occurring, I believe that's on December the 10th, okay? Lewis, you want to have a little dialogue with Marco and see what you got there, buddy?
All right, Mark. So, yeah, obviously we have the class of 2020 being announced January 21st, but we have the modern era ballot, which is always announced in the month of December. And I'll give you the names real quick, and there's a couple of names that'll definitely be familiar to you. One, in fact, the guy that you played with for a long time. So on this modern era ballot, we got 10 names, and we got one executive. So here are the names. You got Dwight Evans, Ted Simmons, your former teammate for 4 years, Marvin Miller, Lou Whitaker, Thurman Munson, Dave Parker. When the leaves turn brown, I'll be wearing the hitting crown, is what he used to say. He won 2 batting titles. 2-time MVP Dale Murphy, 1985, AL MVP Don Mattingly, and, of course, somebody that you championed back in July when we had you on the Sports Exchange with Peter that you think should be in the Hall of Fame, and that's Tommy John. So go ahead, give me some names real quick. What do you think of these guys? Who do you think should be in the Hall of Fame of these 10?
Well, I think it was Schlesinger out of Atlanta. He's written a few things, but I think he's also pretty wrong on a lot of few things. He's really pushing Dale Murphy, which I can see right off the bat. But then he's got 4 guys right there behind him, like. Who has he got? I'm trying to pull this up as we speak. But you got Dale Murphy, you got Garvey, and then you've got, Tommy John, who we had mentioned and talked about. Larry Walker, he's down the list a ways. But, then, he brings up Munson. And, of course, he doesn't bring up Munson as one of the top 3 or 4, but he doesn't bring up Simmons either. And I felt Simmons, he missed it by 1 vote last time. Mm-hmm. So he's got some numbers. The thing about Munson is he's got 9 years, maybe 10 years playing in the big leagues. A lot of people don't know that. Mm-hmm. I mean, he did some real damage when he played, but the tenure's just not there. Simmons has 21 years. Plus, he's been in the game as an administrator and a lot of other things, and he's just been there. So it sounds like I'm plugging Teddy Light, and I am a little bit because I did play with him. He's lax on the catching a little bit, but he's strong on hitting. He's a switch hitter too. But you got Dale Murphy on the other hand, and I pitched against Dale, and Dale's a great guy, no doubt about it. But he's also a great ball player. And if they hadn't caught him early on for 2 or 3 years, I think he would have had a much better career, in the field out there as a hitter even. Because the catching just takes it out of you so much. It really takes it out of you. So that's my thoughts right there. And then, Tommy John speaks for itself.